Blunt, who is nice enough to spend a couple minutes with us. Good morning, Senator.
Hey, McGraw, Kelly, nice to be with you this morning. I think I finished the Tinder bar since I talked to you last.
Yes.
And now I'm wondering what a the Long Island guy is going to do with the Mets and the Royals.
First of all, did you like the book?
I loved the book. I thought it was incredibly well written, and I always particularly like the parts where he's giving names to people in the bar that he's never seen before, will never see again, but suddenly you're midget or flathead or whatever. Sometime I want to sit down with you and get your sense of exactly how that whole family functioned or didn't function.
didn't
but
function.
I thought it was well written, and of course, I particularly on the parts that dealt with a guy named McGraw Millhaven. I paid a lot of attention to that and enjoyed it.
You are very nice, and way to soften me up. Now I have a hard time asking you some really hard questions. But I
haven't heard the Mets and Royals answer. It's very important for us in Missouri. Cardinal fans, back when the Mets really used to play baseball before, real Cardinal fans were for the Cardinals and whoever the Mets were playing that day.
Yes. And as you know, as a senator from the great state that has two baseball teams, that you can love two baseball teams.
You can indeed. That's a good answer.
Well, I learned from the best, sir. All right, first let's talk about this sanctuary city bill. What's going on with all of that?
Well, apparently we're not going to, the Congress doesn't apparently have the desire, at least in the Senate, to deal with this, but I don't know how you can continue to give federal assistance to cities that decide they aren't interested in enforcing federal law. Kate's Law, the situation that happened in San Francisco, sort of the worst example of picking up somebody who's been picked up over and over again and letting that person go until finally a tragedy happens that a family can never replace. But we're going to have to deal with this issue at some point in the future. Apparently, the Senate is not willing. We're ready to deal with this and move forward. We didn't get to the threshold it takes to get legislation to the floor. I just don't see, in the administration generally has a view of enforcing the laws that they like and ignoring the laws that they don't. And when the law doesn't do the job, rules and regulations that eventually the Supreme Court may decide they don't have the authority to do that. So when it starts at the top, when the administration is very, very selective about the law, I guess there is some understanding of why cities think that they don't have to enforce the law either.
It goes to show you how convoluted this whole immigration issue is with these sanctuary cities, but you also have the IRS giving illegal immigrants, undocumented workers, tax ID numbers. So the whole thing doesn't make any sense. There really needs to be a 21st century immigration policy, which means compromise on all sides, does it not, at some point?
I think everything in a democracy is compromise in one level or another. But as I've told you many times, I've always thought this problem is solvable. It's just more solvable in pieces. The first piece is how do you secure the border? And once you get that piece solved, I think the other two big problems of what are the legitimate workforce needs of the country and what do you do about people who came or stayed illegally are pretty easily solved by a population that will want to do the reasonable thing here, but they don't want to do that until they believe that the government has met the responsibility of operational control of the border. Not a border that nobody could ever under any circumstances figure out how to get across, but a government that really does have control of the border. And then the other two problems are solvable. And McGraw, they're not as solvable collectively because the best, let's say the best 218 House members to figure out how to secure the border are not the best 218 House members to figure out how do you determine the legitimate workforce needs of the country. And neither of them may be the best 218 people to figure out, okay, what do you do with the people who came here illegally, and the other half who came legally but then stayed without the legal capacity to stay. And it's a solvable problem like so many other problems, but right now the government is in this period where we don't want to solve them. Like, there's no reason that every year, September the 30th, the end of the federal spending year, becomes a huge crisis. We should deal with these appropriation bills the right way, one at a time, where when you come to September the 30th, maybe there's one or two of them that haven't gotten quite finished yet, but you don't have the entire government foolishly unfunded because the Senate couldn't get to the appropriations bills in June and July when they were all ready, all 12 of them ready for the first time in 6 years, and Senate unwilling to debate them.
While we have you, any thoughts on your former colleagues in the House and Paul Ryan possibly becoming Speaker of the House?
Well, we'll see how that works out. I do know enough about the House and Senate to know that the one thing House members do not want is a lot of advice from senators as to who their speakers should be. But I will say that this comes at a particularly bad time. Here we are at the end of the year, too much work piled up already, and then obviously that work gets disrupted by having to decide who the leaders are going to be at the Senate. And remember that, I mean, the House, and that leader doesn't have the chance to start from sort of a standing start like you would if this same thing was happening in January instead of October. Obviously, January right after the election is the best time. January of any given year, the next best time. But this is the very difficult time for this to occur, and I hope the House can figure out how to settle on a speaker that can help us reach the right conclusions.
Senator Roy Blunt, Missouri Senator, you are always welcome here. Thank you for checking in.
Great to be with you. See you soon.
You got it. Senator Roy Blunt here, 725 here, Big 550 KTRS. We should say that there was one Republican who voted with the Democrats to sort of block that sanctuary city bill, and that was Mark Kirk, senator from Illinois, voted with the Democrats. 2 Democrats voted with the Republicans, and 1 Republican voted with the Democrats. That was Senator Mark Kirk in Illinois. 725 here, Big 550.